Could you spend the year only buying the basics and necessities? As we close out the year and begin a new one, many of us will start thinking about resolutions. And one of the big things that many people always want to change in the new year is saving more money. And a very popular way to do this is to actually reset your spending habits by doing what's called a no buy challenge. And a no buy challenge is a self induced commitment to yourself to not spend money in a certain time period. No buy challenges can be a great way to reset the way you think about your spending habits. And while no buy challenges are hard, they are possible, especially if you plan ahead. Thanks so much for joining me today. My name is Catherine Agupchan, and here at Sisters for Fi, we talk personal finance, minimalism, sustainability, and motherhood. Now, as a financial educator, I would recommend doing a no buy challenge, partly for the reason that it's really all about stopping yourself from going on those impulse buys, because sometimes we just spend because we're on autopilot. So, no buy challenges can be a good time to reflect on those spending habits. So, why would you take on this very difficult challenge to stop spending money? Now, there are going to be many reasons why you may want to take on the no buy challenge and reduce your spending and really only focus on the necessities and basics. First reason is that you want to reduce debt or eliminate it completely. By not spending money on extras, you have more money to put towards debt and pay that off completely. You may want to live a more sustainable life. When we consume, there's a lot of energy being used to make the products that come at our doorstep. There's a lot of energy that's being used on things that we don't use. So when we reduce our consumption, we also live a more sustainable life, and it's better for the planet. You may want to challenge yourself to think outside the norms of our very consumption heavy society. Everywhere you look, everyone is trying to sell you something, getting you to buy something. And a no buy challenge can help reset your brain and your mind and your habits to be less consumption heavy and maybe more community oriented and sharing in that aspect. Next is that you may just want to live within your values. Perhaps you are getting caught up in lifestyle inflation and you know that this is not part of your values and is not the values you want to instill in your families and the values you want to continue going forward. So taking a pause and assessing what you're spending your money on, what you're consuming, and changing those aspects can make you live life that's more in your terms and more within your values. If any of these reasons resonate with you, let me know in the comments. What is the number one reason why you want to do a no buy challenge, or why you took one and did the challenge for yourself? When it comes to a no buy challenge, your goal is to focus your spending on only the necessities. Necessities will most likely be rent, a mortgage, utilities, food, transportation, prescription hygiene products, and insurance. But of course, depending on your lifestyle, your necessities may be slightly different, so you want to assess what those are. This means that there will be certain categories of items that you will opt out of buying for the period of your no buy challenge. The time period for your no spend challenge will be up to you to determine, and they can range from a weekend to a week to a month to even a year. Now, my sister does her no buy challenge during the Lent season, which is around 46 days in the Catholic Church, and it's all about a time frame for fasting and self-reflection. In the end, though, no buy challenges aren't about success or failure. It's about learning and experimenting along the way. The first tip to start your no buy challenge is to pull out your calendar and review it. pick a time frame for your no buy challenge. Pick one where it might be a bit easier for you to go through those days without spending money. Partly because many of us don't really plan ahead and we really use the default of buying something as a solution. So when you carefully select these dates for your no buy challenge, you will have less temptation to spend. You also want to pre plan ahead because it might be tough to do a no buy challenge when you are on vacation. You also want to pre plan if there is a birthday coming up, your husband's birthday, best friend's birthday, or something else, and you want to do something special. So you might want to plan ahead by buying a gift early on or setting that expectation right that you won't be buying something for that celebration. Now, given all that said, there will be no perfect time to do this no buy challenge. So if you're looking at your calendar and you're saying none of these work, just pick a week. Try it out and then expand it as you see fit or try it again. The next thing is to set your rules. What spending categories will you continue to make purchases within? These might be food items, these might be replacement items. By setting these categories, you know the parameters in which you can spend money on. So that's easier for your decision making. But on the flip side to that is also things and categories you will abstain from buying. Now, tip number 3 in this list will help you assess what you need to abstain from. And it's a lot of the things that you have an overabundance of. So set those rules, set a time frame, and be strict about it. Have you done a no buy challenge before? How did it go? Let us know in the comments the number 1 tip you would have for someone doing this challenge for the very first time. The next thing I would encourage you to do is to review your bank and credit card statements. Pull that information out, look back at least 3 months. Might be good to print these out in paper so you can see what line items you're spending money on. Now, as a financial educator, this is absolutely a step I recommend you go through, because an outcome of our overconsumption or just consumption in general is a lot of wasted money. When we buy something, we are trading in our time, our money for something else, and we have to assess if that trade-off was worth it. So what you will do is to review all of those things in your credit and debit card statement and see if you remember even spending money on that. If not, then it may be time to reassess and put those things as things that you want to slow down consumption of or completely eliminate it. When it comes to consumer debt, credit card debt, just keep this in the back of your mind that remember when you put something on credit and don't pay for it right away, you are basically taking out a loan to buy that thing. It might be that you took out a loan to buy jeans. It may be you took out a loan to buy handbags. It may be you took out a loan to buy underwear. So this is just another reframe for how you're spending money. The next thing I am going to recommend that you also do is to declutter and reorganize. It's helpful to see what you have an overabundance of, because that can also inform you the category that you need to abstain spending within. This might be lots of clothes, makeup, toys, and so forth. So when you declutter and reorganize, you see all of those things all at once. It's also good to organize your things because you may see multiples of items. And at some point, you will want to replace things. So instead of buying something, you can just use something from your stock and your stash to do so. I want you to look around and see what items in your home, in your closets, in your rooms are unopened, have tags on them, are not being used, because all of this stuff, all of this clutter was once money, time, and energy. The no buy challenge is a very personal challenge, but we are social creatures. So it is important that we let our family and close friends know what we're doing and why we're doing this challenge. One thing that's going to start happening when you're doing a no buy challenge is that you might decline invitations. You might be asking for your friends to do something else that doesn't require shopping or spending money. and the people in your circle can feel alienated. So before this happens, and before you feel bad about canceling plans, set the expectations, let them know why you're doing this challenge, tell them what your rules are, and help come up with activities that you and your friends and family can do together that don't involve spending money. Supportive family and friends will absolutely understand why you're doing this and can help you along the way. The next tip I have as you go through the No Buy Challenge is to read books relating to consumption, advertising, marketing, and the psychology of spending. As you go through your No Buy Challenge, the library will probably become one of your go to places, partly because it is one of the few places where you are not expected to buy anything. Now, since you're at the library, it's good to pick up a few books to help you understand really the psychology of consumption and spending. The No Buy Challenge is not just about you stopping your spending completely, it's also about changing the way you think about consumption, the way you think about money, the way you think about advertising and marketing. So, there's some books in the description to help you. The first book I would recommend is a fairly heavy read. It is The Empire of Things: How We Became a World of Consumers from the 15th Century to the 21st. It is full of the historical nature of trade, of how we got to consume the way we consume. I think it will give you a perspective on how we got to this point in our economy. The next book I would recommend is Happy Money: The Science of Smarter Spending. And the book asked the question, can you buy happiness? And they go through a few categories where spending my money actually can lead to more happiness. And I think it might be a book that you would want to read and consider as you work through the No Buy Challenge and work through your own spending habits. The last book I'll recommend for this section is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Now, we covered in tip number 3 here of this list that we should declutter and reorganize so that we can see really the amount of stuff that we have and some categories where we need to abstain from spending. And I think following the rules and guides of this book can help you do that. The next thing I would recommend that you do is to come up with a list of activities that don't require you to buy stuff. Now, the big thing that you will come to realize as you reduce your spending is how much time you actually spent browsing for things, reading reviews, anticipating the item, fantasizing about it, and so forth. When you start your no buy challenge, in the early days, you will probably still do a lot of these things. You'll add items to your cart, you'll read reviews, but you'll just never hit the buy button. Over time, you're no longer going to be reading reviews, browsing things, so you need to figure out what you will do with those blocks of time that you will reclaim. Because if you don't, it's easy to fall back into the old habits and routines. So make a list of activities that you can do in place of that browsing and shopping, in place of those things that you did when you were bored and spent money. As you go through this challenge, it is absolutely going to happen where you want to buy things, where you are going to be tempted to buy things, you're adding it to the cart. What I would recommend that you do is just write down those things that you want. Make a list of your want purchases. This is good to do regardless anyways, but for this in particular time frame, it's good to have this on hand. As you put all of these things in a list, I want you in the next column to look around you and see if there's an item that could just be a temporary replacement for that thing. Either use it up or use it for now. When and if you're out of the challenge, when you're ready to purchase, then you can go ahead and do so. But this just gives you a bit more perspective on the things that you want to see if you already have these existing things or if there's things that you can use up today before you replace it with something new and different. The next thing that I just want you to know is that this challenge is going to be hard. And the reason why the no buy challenge is hard is because from the time we were children, consumption has been indoctrinated in us. From the cartoons we watched as children to the media and entertainment we consume today, we are pushed to consume. Everywhere we go, there's ads, marketing, other people trying to get us to buy stuff. So, yes, when you make a commitment to change the way you spend, to learn more about the psychology of marketing advertising, when you make the commitment to really focus and reflect on your spending habits, you are changing a lot of underlying behaviors that have been taught to you from childhood. So, yes, it will be hard. There will also be people in your circle that don't understand what you're doing. So, yes, that will be hard too. But know that you can do hard things and commit anyways and see what comes out of it after you complete your no buy challenge. As you progress through the no buy challenge, one thing that you will probably see is the breadth of your creativity. You will start thinking outside the box. You will now reach out to friends to ask for help or to borrow something. And this is, I think, one of the biggest factors and the biggest advantages of doing this no buy challenge. You'll learn to embrace a community to help you and learn to get your creative side working. In our current culture, we absolutely default to buying as the solution. Now, as you pull away from all of this buying, all this consumption, one click shopping and next day shipping are no longer part of your default. So, when that happens, you do have to plan a little bit. You have to be a bit more creative, and you need to learn to lean in on your community to ask for the things that you might want to use or borrow. You might also find in your no buy period that you learn a new skill. Maybe you'll learn to mend something, learn to plant a garden. So keep your mind open that this no buy challenge is not just about deprivation and stopping consumption, but also about all of the ways you can shift your energy into new things, into things that you have never thought of, or things that might be something that you can take on after your no buy challenge is over. One of the big benefits of doing this no spend challenge is, of course, some of the money you'll be saving. Now, it is very easy to go back into yo yo buying, which means one month you spend nothing, but the next month you buy a ton of things because you see money in your account. So, before you do that, set up an automated system, set it up through your online bank where every week it takes out the money you would have spent on other stuff. Put it into a savings account, draft it so that it pays down debt automatically. Move the money out so that you are not going back to dip into your account to buy new things when you're out of your no spend challenge. As you wrap up your no buy challenge, remember to enter the world of consumption slowly. Remember the things that you've learned, whether that was through the psychology of spending or of your own personal spending habits. Keep those in mind. And remember too that this isn't about success or failure. It's all about learning and experimenting along the way. Don't forget to give this video a like if you found it helpful and share it with a friend who might want to do this challenge with you. It's a good idea to have a friend on hand because you can lean on each other and help each other with accountability. Subscribe to Sisters for Fi if you want more content related to personal finance, motherhood, sustainability, and minimalism. And check out this video if you want to learn more about some of the triggers that's getting you to spend and how to overcome those. And I will see you next week for the next video. Bye!